while I don't really need it, when I find myself needing to iterate over some sort of enumerable, right? A list, some sort of where there's a sequence of items. I typically will either know the range of the sequence or an early break. I don't need a while let. Do you need a while let? There's this. I mean, here, let's look at the example. They're providing a while let, saying that a while let is just like an if let, which is fine because it does an unwrap under the case here, which is really, really useful. So we've got an unwrap. It's great. I love this. I like that part. There's some clean syntax there. Here's the problem. The example they're providing can easily just be taken care of by a for loop. We see here they're going with a range of, while I has to be below 10, right? So it's saying 9, I needs to be 10 essentially in this point for the break to occur, and then it will break. Okay. I mean, okay, sure. I mean, it's all right. And then here's the example. They provide the exact same if statement here, which is nice that we don't have to embed it in a match, which will unwrap or fail under the conditions provided with options. Though I would much rather just like a for loop, right? Because this is 0 to 10. It's a for loop of 0 to 10 because it's 0 to 10. We seem to have stumbled upon an error in the Rust documentation. It looks like we're defining a variable outside the scope of a main function, and it's having issues with this. And this is just, so if I wrap main around this like that, it will work magically. It looks like we're going to have to submit a pull request. Against some Rust documentation here to help out this definition to allow it to work properly. Click this GitHub link up here, and then we forked the repository. We'll go to flow control, and we'll have the while let. And then we will edit this and submit a pull request. All right, let's propose the change. We added a function main. There's another way to also, I believe you could allow an annotation in the code, which would sort of hint that the main function should start here. We'll just add it in and see what happens. Okay, now let's create a pull request. All right, we submitted our pull request. So now we've got that taken care of. For now, at least we have a working example here. That's all we did. We just we wrapped main around it. Typically with the Rust compiler, when you're building Rust doc, it will automatically, through heuristics, know to automatically insert the main function. In this case, it just didn't. So now that we have that set aside, the next video here, we'll walk through while let versus a for loop, which I think is going to be more meaningful in this case compared to this example here, because look, we already know what our range is, so we want to take a look at comparing those two. Which one's better? Which one of these code blocks looks better? And when we're looking at Rust and we have a list of items that we want to enumerate over, we want to loop over, we want to sort of look through every single element in a list. There are several approaches. One of those options is a while let. If you have an object in Rust that is maybe it's a wrapped object, either a result or an option, a while let might make a lot of sense, but not with this example that they provide. This example that's provided to us here, I think there's a better option. If we look between these two code blocks here, we've got code block 1 with a while let and a code block 2 with a for range. It's a for loop or a while let loop. Now here's what I like. All right, so very obviously, first straight off, the for loop is a lot more concise. They both output the same data, right? The exact same data. And then this option here at the for loop, there's no mutations occurring either, so it's simpler. There's also just a lot less code. So the clear winner, right, is going to be the for loop. There is an advantage here with the while let because it does an automatic unwrapping of whatever entity you have that's in this position, in this spot right here. It's sort of called destructuring. And you can destructure anything right here, whether it's a struct or in enum. It's very similar to an if let that allows you to destructure just on one of the arms of the possibilities in say, for example, a list, right? Or just kind of any sort of object. So this is why I like a while let, because it's a shorthand capability that allows you to destructure a variable immediately on the same line that you're jumping into. So you can do something with the variable here. That's really powerful. You are more likely better off with just an if let under most conditions if you're using this pattern altogether, right? Like something like this. You might as well do that. I think this is, obviously it's not going to be a loop in that case. However, if we're going to be incrementing a counter, which is what's happening here, where we're incrementing a counter, you might as well just do a range, right? Let's just do a range, 0 to 10, which means 0 to 9, right? Because it's exclusive. Or if you wanted it to be inclusive, you could do this with the equal sign, dot equals. So if at all possible, to always opt toward the cleaner and the lower code approach. Look how it's so much less. It's like, look at all the scaffolding required just to enumerate through it. This is all that's happening. It's an example. Now, right before we end this here, I'm going to refresh. Here's the example that's provided. Oh wait, we were already looking at that. I just sort of rearranged it a little bit. Now, what they are describing is this less rightward drift and doesn't require explicitly handling the failing case. This is important because you can only, when you're using a match statement, it's mandatory that you always catch every possibility, right? So if it's an enumeration that you're destructuring right here, then you have to list out every possible enumeration when you're destructuring. With a while loop, with a while let, it's very similar to an if let, where you only have to do that for one of the elements. You don't have to do the full list. So there is a benefit here. However, if you're going to do very simple range iteration, you might as well just do this little tiny bitty one here. This is a lot more simple. I can see what's going on. It's a lot more clear, less code, and yeah, use that. I like that one a lot better.